Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Okay, so this story of China getting caught inside of America is bigger than one person. Listen to this. The mayor of Arcadia, California, just outside of LA, Eileen Wang, has admitted in a federal plea deal to spying for Beijing, taking orders. Her fiance was also involved at the time. Now, the two published propaganda through a news website that looked like a community website, and they'd report back to their handlers in China. But this is bigger than one mayor. So Chinese buyers have actually flooded California real estate, cash deals above asking price, pricing Americans out of their own neighborhoods. It's weird. There's a lot of weird shenanigans happening. And investigators have also identified Chinese-linked land purchases near nearly 19 U.S. military bases across the United States, including bases that house America's nuclear arsenal. This isn't isolated. It's a pattern. Lawmakers have been warned. They've seen the reports. They've heard the alarming statistics. It's time for Washington to get off the sidelines.
What a day today. So much going on. We have election systems that are controlled by foreign sources, right? And then we got a mayor acting as a foreign agent for China. We have people whose names, I put it up on there before, that is more attuned to the alphabet, that are making laws for us, people that they're foreign born, that are taking over as judges, police officers. Look at Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, comes in and says, as a foreigner, and you say, Joe, he's a naturalized citizen. Doesn't matter. You have the call to prayer, the Muslim call to prayer that now is blasted across New York City. You have people that are exiting at a rate that is just it's untenable. You have exit taxes that have been created in California. Now they want to put them in Colorado and Washington State, New Jersey. They're basically boxing in and treating the American people like slaves. Stolen elections have consequences, and over a 20-year period of time, they were able to change the landscape of America seemingly forever. And then we woke up in the middle of it. We knew something was wrong in 2016. We knew something was wrong, and we ran for the door. President Trump came in and said, I'm going to run for president because it's a hot mess. At that point, we were $26 trillion in debt. $22 trillion in debt. Now we're nearly $38 trillion in debt. And you would say, how are we going to pay it? Well, it doesn't seem to matter because the thirst to take more from the American people just keeps growing by the day. And when President Trump came in 2016, I want to remind you that he had a less than 1% chance of becoming president. You don't remember? You had Obama and others that would crack jokes. They would go through and Obama would read his mean tweets and he would be like, read the tweet and he says that you're the worst president in U.S. history. And Obama said, hey, find it for me if you would, please. And there's a video that goes through it. I've put it up several times of all the things that they said. And he goes, at least I will be president. And you had people on CBS and Fox and everyone that mocked President Trump coming in as the president in 2016. But I knew he was going to win. See, here's something I want you all to consider. 10 years ago, people in this country were innately unhappy. We had just gone through one of the largest declines since Black Friday in 1928. The absolute just destruction of our financial systems. Remember, it was October of 2008. And after that, we had people that had pensions with General Motors and Chrysler. And all of those pensions were wiped out. And those people ended up going back to work in their 70s. They worked their entire lives, went back to work in their 70s. and receive Social Security in the amount of $1,500, $1,800. Pensions completely gone. Those companies were, they took General Motors, moved it over here, put it in a new corporation, and handed it over to private equity and investment firms. Restarted it. But they never took care of the 70 and 80-year-olds, some 60-year-olds that had worked their entire lives, paid into that pension program, and in a blink of an eye, it was gone. We knew in 2016 that people were still licking their wounds. And not the guys in Washington, not the guys that are in New York City. See, all of those, most of those made money during this period of triage. The arbitrage market went absolutely crazy. People were able to buy things for pennies on the dollar. I know it was my first jump into, hey, can I buy AIG for $1? So I bought AIG stock for $1. A few years later, I sold it for nearly $30. I made a bunch of money. I sat on the sideline. Now, trust me, in 2008, there was plenty of turmoil to go around. 2015, we still hadn't fully recovered. That was nearly 7 years later. I was able to, the real estate market was very shaky. It was still on unsolid ground. There was a lot of consternation on whether or not there would be any sort of economic growth. Taxes were going up, but we were really unhappy with what the direction of the country was going. And on comes the scene President Trump. And he spoke in a way that most people didn't understand. He spoke in a way that most people in politics and in media couldn't understand. But the American people heard him loud and clear. He was talking about handing power back to the American people and seeing that we have become institutionally enslaved. He was talking in a way that I talk to you every day. It's the reason why I am nearly banished on every platform. I went through and looked at it and tried to figure out, okay, people say, Joe, how come this content didn't go any further than what it did? And I was like, well, they find a way to make sure that nobody can see it. And that's not hyperbole, that's truth. And if it wasn't truth, then why does my website do so well? How do I get hundreds of thousands of people every week to come to my website? And I put up a post on X and it looks like there's like 80 people watching it right now. They purposely make sure that people can't see it. And my followers grow, except for on Rumble. In 2016, President Trump came out and said, we're going to just shake it all up. We're going to move everything. What's this do? Move this over here, move this. And remember, we had the House, we had the Senate. We could have done magnificent things. Nobody could figure out 1% chance. 1% turned into 10% to 20% to 50% to 70%. And do you want to know why President Trump won in 2016? It was too big to rig. See, people liked the irreverent way that President Trump mean tweeted. They liked the fact that he was authentic. They liked the fact that he told the truth regardless of the consequences. And he was willing to fight against the machine, a machine that admittedly he was a part of for decades. He gave money to the Republicans and the Democrats. He didn't care. He saw it as a big grift on the American people. He knew how to maneuver it. He became the massive influence and probably the most renowned person in real estate in New York itself. But more importantly, he mastered the art of the deal. And he brought that into Washington, and people hated him for it. And it wasn't the left that worked against him, it was the Republican Party, because they did not want to hand back to the American people too quickly, because maybe they would see that maybe they were overtaxed and they were overworked, and that the obligations of America fell too heavily on their shoulders, and that we had foreigners that were coming in droves and not taking Americans' jobs. No, they had long disappeared and been pushed overseas. We call it the boomers, the problems of the boomers that created it by sending it to India and saying, look, we don't have to pay retirements, we don't have to pay Social Security, we don't have to pay any of this stuff. We just write them a check for 20 grand and they do what would cost us nearly $20 million in the United States. But those decisions had consequences. Because as we started moving people into the United States and illegals came across the border, and this mass immigration of you just have to have this tolerance and acceptance that the left was pushing towards, we found ourselves in an untenable situation. And they knew in 2000 that they were going to have to influence and steal elections because the plan that they had was longer than 20 years. See, back in 2008, we were talking about the 2030 plan. We were talking about it overseas. We were talking about the different standards, the ISO standards that they had across technology, across how you handled different criterias and contracts with the government, and how we were moving to this place where it went from acid rain to, global warming to now it's climate change. The chaos had been created, the ink was dry, and they had to get to a place where they were able to reduce the populations in our country. So they had to come up with ways that they could run people off and move them to one place. So they walked state by state and they stole elections from the bottom all the way up. And they made people institutionally enslaved. And it's pretty obvious. And stolen elections have had massive consequences, but we were asleep at the wheel because we were dumb and happy and we were making money, and frankly, we'd gotten back to, all right, how do we get further? How do we get further? Not recognizing that as we were trying to recover from 2008, they were just planning the next set of how do they take even more from us. Now it's 56 cents on the dollar. Algos run our financial systems. It's hard to tell, what's being naturally done and what's being artificially inflated. And what makes that even more dangerous is that people play in that market. They have retirements in that market. So sooner or later, that's going to come home, and it's going to be detrimental to the people when it does. I want to put this up. This is from the Skiff. Go ahead and put up. Let's go ahead and play cut 2.
Here are the affidavits we have. In blue counties, 7 blue counties, voters were being contacted by Democrat candidates and outside organizations saying your ballot has been canceled, come and fix it. They were doing this despite the fact that the Supreme Court in the state said there's no way to fix ballots in advance. It's illegal to open ballots before Election Day. But in the 7 Democrat counties, they were able to fix their ballot. The other 60 counties, the Republican counties, voters were not able to fix their ballot. One woman said, I've been voting absentee for 15 years, turned in my ballot, did it by hand, and she found out only after the election that her ballot was canceled. In the counting of the ballots, we have evidence of this as well, that the legislature said you need a signature, you need a postmark, you need an address, but they were counting ballots without a signature, postmark, or address in these blue counties. This could amount to tens of thousands of ballots. People must have the equal amount of franchisement in this country, and in Pennsylvania, there was nothing of the sort.
They talk about the small cons and the big cons, and I said this before when I built the model, is that the big cons are the things that you're actually walking away from. It's like 3-car money. I want to put this up if we can. This is RNC launches a multi-million-dollar election integrity push in 17 states. Put it up. Ahead of midterms. You want to go up so I can read some of it? Fresh off declaring victory over Virginia, roughly $65 million redistricting ballot measure, which Republicans criticize as dark money-backed gerrymandering. Republican National Committee is looking to capitalize on that momentum. Describing the RNC as disciplined and ruthless, Chairman Joe Gruters reveals that the committee launched a multi-million-dollar election integrity push ahead of the 2026 midterms. The effort involves hiring directors in 17 states to recruit poll workers, poll watchers, and election observers, while coordinating legal and election day oversight across key battlegrounds. Okay, take it down. Now, let me just tell you guys something. We have a couple guests today, so I'm gonna move right into it. I just want you guys to understand something. It doesn't matter. With stored procedures and rootkits and some of the things they're able to do inside the systems, they can steal elections with impunity, up the ballot, down the ballot. The risk-limited audit has no effect on their ability to steal elections, to inject fraudulent, fake mail-in ballots into the system and or generate them out using mail ballot printers out of thin air. The system is still as broken as it was back in 2015, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. And they have stolen nearly every election since President Trump got put into office in November of 2024. And they had to have him win, frankly, because they had to, he only knew he could run one more time. And absent him coming in and declaring a national emergency based on the sedition that is happening in this country right now, and it's hard to argue to be anything other than that. They wanted to say, okay, we can get in 2 years, we'll steal the midterms, which we have the House, we have the Senate, we have Thune that basically won't pass the SAVE Act. They're standing in the way of progress for the American people. American people want it done. Again, they show themselves to be the slave masters, just pushing it down. You don't know what you want, plebes. It's supposed to be of the people, for the people, by the people. Tell me what process is of that. I would tell you right now, none of it. But we definitely have put ourselves in a position right now where 2026 is the year. And nobody seems to be listening. We have all the evidence of the election fraud. Everyone should be locked up. We know that there are investigations. We know there's criminal investigations because I'm deep in the middle of one of them. And yet we still sit here and we have this conversation about how we're going to prosecute when we have all the evidence. Because the people in positions of power and authority, the bureaucratic mess is meant to betray the American people. It's a slave trade. And it's a big club, but we're not in it. Before I go to our guests, I wanted you to see this. Here's an update on Charlie Kirk trial. A Utah judge ruled Friday that news outlets will be allowed to film, photograph, and live stream the high-profile murder case against Tyler Robinson. Let's go ahead and play it.
The public has answered our call for action. So far, we've received more than 7,000 leads and tips. I would just note that the FBI hasn't received this many digital media tips from the public since the Boston Marathon bombing. This case also highlights the dedication of our law.
I want you to know something. When you remember when they said that Reddit, he had a thing where they had that he had confessed on Reddit. They already had him in custody. So how's that? Already in custody, and yet he's saying that he has confessed to the murder of Charlie Kirk. And they can't confirm that the bullet came from a 30-06. You want to know why? It didn't come from a 30-06. There's going to be a lot more that comes out about the Charlie Kirk assassination that's not going to make sense to you. And they're going to try and convince you that a lie is the truth. Now, here's what we do know. Charlie Kirk created a vacuum that's being filled in by people who are trying to circumvent the message and the mission of Turning Point USA. And it's working. It's a shell of its former self. It doesn't have a leader. It doesn't have someone that can walk into the campuses and get young people to listen to them, because frankly, most of the people out there won't take the time to learn enough about the people that they're talking to be institutionally intelligent enough to talk to the different factions. Only Charlie could do that. So we'll have more about this, but they're turning it into more kabuki theater, and at the end of the day, again, it's more of this look over here as they create all of this chaos for us in our own lives. So let's talk about our guest. We have Nick Pitruzello. He's an algorithmic trader. He's been on with me before, and the co-founder of Algo Factory. But he's a trader, and trader meaning a forex, cryptocurrency, stock market trader, not the other type of trader. But I'm not going to waste any time. Let's bring him in. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. It's good to be back.
What are we experiencing right now in the markets? I mean, I'm taking a quick turn away from elections for a second. I know you got to hear what I was saying, but it's kind of all tied together, isn't it? You have the Iran gas prices, prices of commodities, gold, silver, everything is just completely unpredictable right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's predictably unpredictable. And what I mean by that, it's it's all underpinned by debt. And so our entire system is founded on usury. And we all know that usurious systems are extractive in nature. In fact, I believe usury is a sin in the Bible, if I'm not mistaken. So our entire money system is debt. We all know that. This is a lot of people, this was their wake up about 10 years ago, and they want to end the Fed and money is debt. But what we need to understand about that is the implication, what's going to probably happen. Fundamentals in the market are not as important as they used to be. And the debt of the United States is starting to become less popular around the world. We also have some fundamental structural issues with the entire equities market around the world. The dollar and the Japanese yen are the two underpinning liquidity sources for the entire world markets. And they're both having structural problems. And when you see that, you start to see some cracks form. You start to see credit, like private credit. You start to see, say, companies lock withdrawals. You can no longer take your money out of this investment. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to hold on to that. And it's in the contract that you signed and probably didn't read. You're going to see perhaps...
Are you talking about stocks too, like buying stocks? Locked into the stocks?
I will put it to you this way. Like, okay, so you have like private equity. So, you're investing in those companies probably individually. I think some of those are public. You can certainly invest in them. Right. But a lot more of like your private credit, your those type of companies, funds, things like that have investments that might be a little bit in trouble right now. They can simply lock your money down. But that can metastasize into it being your bank.
Are you talking about mutual funds?
Mutual funds, as far as I know, I haven't heard of any. Did one of them have a hiccup recently? I think they did. Blue Owl, I think, is the one that's most recently made the headlines, right? So that's like a private credit, like vehicle, if you will. Right. So it's like more sophisticated investors and high-level stuff. And this is where you're going to see the problems first. You're going to see problems in the more exotic or sophisticated type investments. But I can tell you that if we have a major bond issue, if nobody wants to buy our debt, you might find that you can't take your money out of your bank account.
Okay.
It's called capital controls.
And this has happened in our history before, right? They limited. I mean, you can go back to World War II. They did have limited withdrawals that they made, so they didn't have a run on the banks.
That is correct. Yeah, they'll do that. So we just have to understand that there are some theories out there that perhaps like CBDCs might be an answer to boost the value of U.S. treasuries around the world. And I don't know how glazed over your viewers want. How you want their eyes to glaze over as I bore them with like international monetary plumbing. But I can make it really simple. The Japanese debt really is the big liquidity solution. So is the dollar, so is U.S. debt, I should say. But the Japanese debt is a big liquidity solution. And they're in a bit of trouble right now because, for one thing, they need energy because of what's happening in Iran. Energy prices have gone up. Japan does not produce energy. They consume a ton of it because they're a manufacturing nation. So in order to afford that and a few other things, and just to keep their system going, they're actually selling U.S. debt in dollars to buy their own currency up. And you can see it in the charts. It's really something to see from a trading standpoint. And I'm primarily a currency trader. I don't play in crypto like I used to. I'm almost strictly forex at this point.
You got burned a little bit, like me.
Yeah, I mean, I got burned in a big way. You had the FTX situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got burned on that. And fortunately, I didn't get put out of business. I've been rather fortunate. I've been blessed in that world, and I didn't invest in one particular area. But yeah, I took a bite. I got killed on that. But that happens. Hey, I'll tell you what. And Joe, given the guts that you have and everything that you've done, your willingness to put your voice forward and put your neck out for pretty much everybody else in our country, you understand what it is, and you understand what it is to have your backside singed.
Oh yeah,
by these
I do.
And that'll make you into a harder person. And what that'll do for you in markets is once you've lost in that big of a way, it really hammers you into somebody who can take things a little bit more seriously, be a little bit more conservative, and understand that there are a lot of scams out there that are dressed up as like investments that you really should trust.
Yeah, so I get into markets and out of markets pretty quick. People are like, "Oh, you missed an opportunity to make $40 more," and I was like, "No, I didn't. I just moved it over here and made a couple dollars over here." Look, pigs get fat pigs get slaughtered. You take your risk off the table and you ride the next train, right? It's like playing chutes and ladders. You don't necessarily want to go all the way to the top that quick because there's a lot of way to fall, right? You want to take and bank things as you go up the ladders to make sure that you're protecting your environment.
Well, that's about the wisest advice any trader could give.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, So I was doing this analysis. So I have a trading account that I trade personally, and it's not a huge amount of money, but it's a substantial amount of money. And so I've been playing in this account for the last 3 years, and actually I've been playing on it for 6 years. But I decided I was going to do it myself. I got tired of picking up the phone and calling someone and saying, "Hey, buy this stock," right? So I was like, I'll do it myself, right? I'll just buy my own stock. Actually, 8 years, 2018. And I have outperformed all the NASDAQ, S&P, unit. I outperformed them and performed it at such a level that over the last 3 years, I had a 250% return, and I think it was like 90 or 100%. So I'm tripling what they're doing. And I've done this every year since 2018. And people were like, "How do you do it?" I was like, "I don't even know." I don't know. It's like my math brain just works, and I look at something and I read stuff and I'm like, I'm buying it, right? And I'm talking, man, people have made millions off of me because they're like, "Joe, what do you think of the stock?" And I'll go look at it and I was like, "It's trash. But I'm going to buy it for the next 3 weeks and then I'll get out. But after that, just stay away from it," right? Or I'll say, like I told a bunch of people to buy Kodak when it was at $354, and they're like, "Joe, there's nothing. It's sitting stagnant." I said, "Just wait. You'll make 300% on your money. Just wait. It's going to take a couple years, but you will make 300%. And I don't know what's going to happen between now and it was at $15. My buddy called me and I was like, he says, what should I do?" I said, "Sell it. Get out. You just made 400%. Just get out. He's like, no, it's going to go higher. It went to $10 because they mismanaged they had a $1.4 billion pension overpayment. And so I knew that they had all this money, but in order to get out of it, they were going to have to pay $500 million. That still gave them $900 million in cash, which is the entire amount of their market cap. I was like, so it has to double, right? So I knew.
Brilliant. That's actually really. That's a really. People don't even dig anywhere near that deep. So good on you.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't actually know how I did it, but I mean, people call me. I bought Maxer at $4 when it went from $60 to $4 because they lost the satellite. So I went and researched it, and the satellite had a life insurance policy on it. The satellite goes up, something happens. So the policy for replacement value was 130% of replacement value. Had 6 months left on it when the satellite went out. It was an $800 million satellite. So they were going to have to go into debt, but I was like, no, they don't, because they have an insurance policy. So I bought everything I could.
Slurp it up.
And it went to $55. Everybody's like, how did you know? I was like, because I just read. And the guys at the top have already read it. They already knew it. They just wanted to drive it down to $4.
Yeah, see, this is... So somebody like you, I don't know if you... There is a designation it's called sophisticated investor. I know you're in the category by if you check all the boxes, you've already checked them. I don't know if it's something that you've even had to think about. But the reality is a lot of people are not so equipped. And we do see a lot of people who are just convinced to buy something because it's the big shiny object. There's the famous inverse Jim Cramer ETF. If you know who Jim Cramer is, he's the guy on the news telling you, buy this, buy that. I don't know if he says exactly those things, but he, there's all kinds of noise and he's loud. And
he's always wrong too.
He's wrong quite a lot. Let me put it to you this way. I did a back test on what was documented that he said.
I
actually did a back test. And now the things that he said that were good actually did okay. What they didn't mention were all the things he said that were bad and the missed opportunity cost.
Silicon Valley Bank, 2 weeks before they went broke. Where did he tell everyone to put their money? Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah.
Right? And people lost a ton. He goes, wow. And he gets on there. He's like, wow, well, I'm not perfect. I was like, bro, you have missed every opportunity. Every opportunity.
Yeah, there's, like I said, they have the inverse Jim Cramer ETF. So people who literally bet against them. Like it's actually, a thing. I would be really careful of people like that. This is the same thing, I think, when it goes to political realities, to digging into reality in general. If the information is really easy to find, it's probably not going to help you. This also goes, as a friend of mine said recently, the government has no interest in telling you the truth. It doesn't help them to do so unless it helps them to do so. But if they need to tell you a truth that is not going to help them, they will simply not tell you that truth and they'll lie to you. The best you're going to get is lies wrapped in truth to make them sound better. So somebody like me is going to be very, very careful about. I ignore the mainstream media at this point. If I want to find out what they want me to think, that's what I watch in the end. But I actually just look at the charts. I have enough data on the charts without even paying attention to the details of X, Y, and Z to do my trades. And then I have a very, very basic understanding of what's happening in the world to give me which way the wind is blowing.
Yeah, what's really weird about how I trade is, I'll use this as an example. And by the way, I'm not giving anybody advice. I'm just telling you what I did. Newsmax. So Newsmax is up to sign their new contracts. They have 25 million people that now listen to them, right? That's a significant number of people, right? So you look at their market cap, you look at 25 million, look at what they're doing financially. You see this, positive regression that's happening in their revenue. But they're renegotiating contracts, and the last time they negotiated it was at 9 million. So that's at 25 million. The stock was at $28, right? It had this big bump, went to like, I don't know, 50 or 60. But $28, it got down to like $5. So it equalized down to its basement, right? Because nobody knew what the news outlet was going to be able to survive. And it was at $6. And I was like, so I called my buddy and I'm like, bro, tell me I've got beer goggles on, but I think I should buy some of this stock. And he goes, it's a news stock, Joe. And I was like, I don't care. Let me just tell you what I know. And I walked through it with him. And he was he's been on here, Derek. He was a New York Stock Exchange trader. And he was like, oh yeah, so go buy 1,000 shares. I was like, screw that, I'm gonna buy 40,000 shares. Okay. and I called him back, he goes, you did what? Right? And it went up 8%. And I was like, well, see, I told you I was right. It went up 8%. He's like, are you gonna get out? I was like, no, because earnings are the 14th, and it's gotta coincide with the increase, the 18% increase in viewership. That helps with advertising and everything else. And their new contract coming out. So I was like, it's gonna go to $10. He goes, man, but I've been right. Like every time that I've gone, I do this math in my head that's goofy, and all of a sudden it does really well.
I wouldn't say it's goofy at all. Just by the stories you're telling me, it sounds to me like it's good math.
But I can't explain it to you though. You know what I mean? Like I can't say, here's the formula that I walk through. I look at it and go, all right, let me scratch this over a little bit. Okay, this is going to go up.
We were given a brain that outperforms microchips in certain ways, right?
Yeah.
So microchips are very binary. Our brains, they say, are like quantum computers. And for example, when I'm doing my work, when I'm building algos, I'll keep data on the screen that I don't necessarily use. And the reason I do that is because I believe that my brain sees that, and while I'm sleeping or doing something else, it's factoring that into the equation subconsciously.
Yeah.
And so with this marvelous brain that we have, that I mean, they've actually taken brain cells and they've wired it to computer chips, and it can do things that computer chips simply cannot do. So we really don't know what we have been given or evolved into, or whatever your belief is. So I really think that if you might have that, and that might be, you might not know it, but the math that you're doing might actually be like some quantum annealment inside of your skull. Could be.
It's crazy. So I do have a problem when I solve problems. I close my eyes and I can see the math. Like it's in bright green. It's been a goofy thing since I was a kid, but in trading, it has manifested. And I outperform my friend Derek. I know you're listening. I outperform you because we run side by side accounts. And I'm like, listen, I'm gonna do this. He's like, oh, don't do it. Or he's like, I want to buy this stock, Joe. And I'm like, buy it. And they'll call me a day later, and he's like, well, I should have bought it. I mean, it went up like $8. And I was like, well, why didn't you buy it? Or he'll buy calls or puts or things like that. I was just buy the stock. Just buy it. If you like it, buy it. Right? So anyway, it's fascinating because as I'm sitting here talking to you, you know the VBL Gold guy, Vince?
Actually, yeah, Vince, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, you had him on with Ben Keller recently. Ben's a friend of mine. Ben and I live in the same area, so...
He's a stud too. Like all you guys are like super. I mean, I could nerd out with you all day. I could sit on this show just to ask you a bunch of questions. Like, hey, what about this?
Yeah, ask away. I'm here.
But he came on the show and silver was at $30, so $29. And I was like, Vince, by the end of the year, it's going to go to $100. And I said it's going to be $200 in the next couple of years. And he's like, no, it's not going to happen. And I was like, I'm going to have you back on when it hits $100. So I called him up. I was like, you ready to come on? He came on. He's like, how in the world did you? I'm like, it had to happen. They made it a critical mineral. You saw China starting to buy it up. You saw other countries started buying up the supply. And, I was like, look, and that tidal wave is like a tsunami. It's got to suck out first before it comes in. And so he's like, okay, I'm a believer now.
My business partner over at Algo Factory, and we've been working together for about 10 years. He actually does large precious metals deals on the institutional side, and he's international. And so between the two of us, we called out that move a couple of years ahead. And, I'm able to do it by knowing what's going on in the same manner that you're talking about, critical mineral, all that, seeing what's happening. China's buying a lot of it. And then when I look in the charts, I can use a little bit of math to project out how far that's going to be. And as it gets closer to the event, my projections are a little bit better. And I think I called it within like a month.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty good. And closer to the month I got, the tighter I got. When something, okay, first of all, back to what you were saying, when you saw that stock and someone said, "Oh, don't buy it," because it was kind of in the basement. I want to say it was Newsmax. You probably were watching it bottom crawl. And a lot of people don't have the bravery to pick something up while it's bottom crawling. There's a fear and greed aspect. And so I would argue that you must have a way of looking at something for what it is rather than being afraid to lose money. You simply just go for it. You think it's a good deal. You might lose, you might win. You don't care. You go for it.
Yeah. And I've not lost very many times, frankly.
Yeah, that's the hardest part of trading. I actually coach people. I teach them how to do it, and they undervalue trading psychology the most, and it is the thing that they should value the most. It's why, ultimately, I can make an argument that 100% of failed traders fail because of psychology, and it seems like you got that under wraps.
Yeah, I mean, I do hate it when I sell it, and 15 minutes later, it's $3 more, and I'm like, oh. but then I deal with it, and I'm like, it's fine. I got out. Pigs get fat pigs get slaughtered. I'm good.
You can't go broke taking profit.
No, and so, but I look at it and go, all right, well, I'll find another deal, right? I mean,
always another trade.
I bought NBIS at $46, $47.
Not familiar.
So it's a AI stock. Then they got a $20 billion contract with Microsoft. And so the stock went to like 170. Well, I sold it at like
INBS?
130. NBIS.
NBIS.
Yeah. I think it's.
Oh, hey. Oh, that's a lovely chart, sir.
Yeah. What's it sitting at right now?
179.
180. Yeah. It should probably down a little bit. It's been breathing heavy the last couple weeks.
I mean, if it's down, it did touch 198, which is natural. It's going to hit a big round number and come down, but it already made it down to that prior high at 142. So there's a decent chance it's just going to, chop sideways and then go up after that.
Yeah. So I mean, I think but you could see where the pulse happens. So then I sold it like 130, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to get out, sit it for a little bit. I called my friend. I was like, it's going to go down to like 90. He's like, no, it's not. And sure enough, it went down to like 85. I bought it again, sold it 106, and then I was like, man, I should have kept it. I would have made a fortune if I'd have waited into it. But again, you just take what you can and you get out.
Well, hey, if you when you shoulda, coulda, woulda, then all of a sudden you should all over yourself.
Yeah. So what do you think's happening? I mean, I'm sorry to like talk about the stocks and stuff like this, but I do want to talk about what's happening as it relates to the markets being manipulated. So when we start talking about currencies now are seeing the same fluctuations that we were seeing in stocks. This up-down movement. Now currencies they're doing this crazy thing where you could go to 3 countries and make 100% of your money if you did it right.
Sure. Well, currencies you're talking about fractions of a cent moving. So you're going to be using leverage, and there's a lot of risk that comes with that. As far as what's happening, again, I think the biggest problem is an overusage of debt. And when the jobs all went to China, right? And I have that's a longer conversation where I like to throw a little water on it. But long story short, jobs went to China, labor got cheap, and the United States, in order to maintain our lifestyle and not have like a revolution, we had to go ahead and financialize. So we basically started just playing the money game, and we turned into like Britain, 70 or 80 years ago, and we're going to turn into Britain again if we're not careful. And what I'm concerned about is that obviously we're not making things like we used to. We're just kind of letting the same money wash back and forth, and we're letting people who are very unsavory extract from that washing back and forth as we empty out our production. And whether it's something we can help or not, I think that there will be a reckoning. There's going to be a reckoning of some sort. It's a question of how bad it is. But the debt is the biggest problem. Everything is funded by debt. When money goes into markets, it's almost all debt. And technically, it is 100% debt that funds the markets because money is debt. Now, when you have the main debt that funds our markets, at least in this U.S. and vastly around the world, it's U.S. debt, it's treasuries, it's pretty secure, it's a relatively low interest rate. But when you stack that on top of itself over and over and over again, when you use debt to buy debt, you end up with this compounding of the risk. And you have to develop financial instruments to sort of control that out of control exponential growth in debt that happens when you use debt to buy debt. And we're running out of room to play that game. As you said at the beginning of the show, we have 38 trillion, almost $39 trillion in debt. And that doesn't count the unfunded liabilities that are probably 5 times that. And we're adding $1 trillion of that every quarter. We're adding $4 trillion or 10% a year. These are not sustainable numbers. We must keep that in mind. There will be a reckoning. It'll probably be soon. And I think ultimately it's a very complex system. What I think we're going to see is stagnation, which is a sort of inflation and deflation at the same time. You get an inflation of asset prices. You get a deflation of wages, right? So wages go down, buying things goes up. So effectively, or even your wages just don't go anywhere. Maybe you keep the same wage, but your purchasing power goes down because assets are rising. Or your wages are rising, but they're rising at a slower rate than asset prices. So if your wages increase 1 or 2% per year, assets are increasing at 5%. Effectively, that's a negative 3 to 4% negative in net gain, or I should say 3 to 4% net loss of your purchasing power every single year. But you don't think you feel it. It's just all of a sudden you go out to eat and you're like, man, I can't go out to eat anymore because we just can't afford it. We can't make ends meet. I think people are there now. and I think it's going to continue to get worse. And I don't know that there's not much we can really do about it.
Do you think we're in the
except for be
tsunami?
smart with our investments.
Yeah, so let's talk about smart with our investments. You know, you can usually tell when the water's about to come in. You can see signs, and those signs will be, collapses, bankruptcies, credit instruments become more expensive, credit card companies start to limit credit card limits even if you pay on time. I mean, there'll be some indicators that we should pay attention to personally in our lives that'll give us a kind of that pause of, okay, maybe it's time to sit on the sidelines because something is about to happen.
Sure. Well, it depends on which sidelines you're sitting on. It depends on which markets you're avoiding. I think we're going to see a melt upwards with very violent corrections downwards. We're seeing the melt upwards right now. You take a look at the NASDAQ, and it's just there's irrational exuberance in the market. And I've been calling it out. I've been watching these kids on Twitter who think they're traders, and they're saying, "I'll never trade again. This price action sucks," because they keep shorting a market that won't go down. Okay, well, I think we're approaching a time when I think your dollar is going to devalue at a rate to where the markets can only really go up until there is a reckoning. So the market's going up is the water going out. And that's always kind of been that way, but we're getting to a point now where unless the world wants to purchase our debt, then the markets going up are still going to be not enough for us to keep up with expenses, and you're going to get a deflationary crash. The cracks to look for to really answer your question, I would say we're already seeing them. Now, we're seeing layoffs. They're blaming AI for it. They're saying, "Oh, well, AI is taking all these jobs. We don't need you." No, I'd say that might be anywhere from 50 to 80% excuse. And they're just laying people off because they can, right?
Well, I mean, look, AI on our part is causing us more pain than it is anything else in the tech industry. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's because it's inconsistent. It doesn't necessarily give you a true north. It's based off falsified data. So these are machine learning models. This isn't artificial intelligence. It's machine learning. So you're literally pre-programming these things up front. One of the things that you do on the algorithmic trading is yours is a little bit different because it's looking at historicals of actual true data. So AI has a tendency to work better in algorithmic trading than it does in the real world, because the real world is, hey, there's 200 genders, and the AI can't. It looks at it and goes, that's bullshit, and then the system's like, no, override. There are 200 genders. This is a social construct of how someone feels, right? Total bullshit, right?
Yep.
So that's why AI doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's not AI.
Agreed. Yep. AI is a marketing term.
Right. And so, but as we start looking at that this is the dangers, is because what you're saying is that it could be irrationally, violently driven up, and then violently it'll crash down, and the crash down causes you just talked about psychological damage in trading, what it does to your brain. That's why you got people that jump off buildings and things like that, thinking the world has ended, right? When in actuality they could probably just wade their way through it if they just took a breath, touched grass.
Yeah, they lost their mother-in-law's money, and so there's a lot of things that I've heard some horror stories in that regard. Interesting that you say that about the fact that you're saying AI is not AI. I don't hear a lot of people say that, and we say that a lot over on ESW, which is a podcast that I'm part of. So interestingly enough, they have this thing called AI slop. And I didn't coin this. So, AI slop, everybody says it, but it's work slop. It's slop on the workplace that they have to go back and correct. So even like white collar or even low level white collar jobs, HR people doing small documents, things that anybody can really do, you have a lot of people slopping those together. And they've done the math. And apparently that's causing more work to go back and correct than it would have been just to simply do it yourself the first time. So I think that, like you're pointing out in your own direct experience in the tech business, and we're hearing elsewhere, AI is probably not taking productivity. I will say, and I've seen, like, for video production, it saved me a lot of time. I have a friend of mine who's was trying to negotiate a lease because he wanted to open up a brick and mortar, a restaurant. And he was going back and forth with these guys. And instead of paying his lawyer to go through this entire contract, He just ran it through AI, and in 10 minutes, AI told him, okay, this is not going to work for you. You're not going to like this and that. So he was able to save a lot of money on lawyer fees. There are a lot of instances where I think AI is already able to contract a lot of the human inputs into a business. But
only where truth is the constant.
Right.
Right. Only where truth is not ambiguous. Truth doesn't have a flavor. It's not politically motivated. Any other way that you actually filter it, though, it fails. It fails. We're seeing it fail with Grok. We're seeing it fail with ChatGPT. You know, it's the shiny object where it can write out papers for you, and even when it writes out contracts, it'll get the contracts wrong because, again, it's still centered on the ambiguity of truth, because there's still a part of it that it says that you should be able to do this. In the real world, that just doesn't work. It's like going to law school and practicing law. They don't touch.
No, sir. No, that's my cousin's a coder, and he calls it a bad gambling addiction. AI. He says that you build these agents, and they work for a little while, and then they screw something up, and you got to spend more time building the agent than you would have just, like I said, if he would have just done the work himself. Half the time, it's more than half the time, it's like that for him.
Well, and so I saw one of these ads that were online, and it said, and this is, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about your organization specifically, but I went and put $1,000 into this algorithmic trading platform. I forget what it's called. I'm not going to tell you what it's called because obviously it doesn't matter. But I look up, I put it in there 3 weeks ago, and now it's $1,600. Is it lucky, or is it? I mean, tell me about it, because I'm like, man, it outperformed me dollar-wise.
Sure. So AlgoFactory.tech is our company, and I teach people to do it manually. Right? I teach them to build an algorithm manually. So a lot of people hear algorithm, they think supercomputers and thick glasses, and they think they need to know how to code, and this is simply not true. One of the videos I put together at the beginning says, like, going to the store is an algorithm. Tying your shoes is an algorithm. You go left here, you go right there. If the stop sign is, blocked, then you take a left, you go right. It's all decision-making process. I know you know this, but this is for the audience, right?
Yeah.
So that said, what I teach people is they all want to come in, they all want to go to ChatGPT, and they want to build an algorithm, and they want it to trade for them. And I say, go for it. Let me know how that goes for you.
It won't go.
Yeah, it just doesn't go. And the reason is that, first of all, like you said, historical charts give you data. You can use that data to create an algorithm that is going to perform to a statistical degree of success. You have a probabilistic model. You're going to win 62% of the time on shorter term trades. You're going to have a risk to reward ratio of this much. You're going to make this much if you do this. And it's an estimate, and results may vary a bit. What you do is you forward test that. You test it live with very small amounts of money. So, instead of your regular $500 risk on like a day trade, you put in, $10, $20, whatever. It's got to be real money, though. There's a psychological thing to that. The point is, as you live test it, you're going to see how you truly perform. You're going to see how the algo truly performs. You're going to see how the mistakes you make affect the performance of your algo, because you're going to make mistakes, right? And then you get to go ahead and build on top of that. And that's the dirty little secret that I've made not a secret in this whole game, is that the best way to develop your trading psychology to avoid the problems of fear and greed is to literally do what I just said. You put yourself through that process, and you wade in one toe or two at a time. And then once you have a successful model, you deploy all of your money that you're comfortable deploying, that is, so on and so forth. Now, if at that point somebody wants to go ahead and codify, or code, I should say, their algorithm, be my guest. I code algos. I have years of doing it manually. So for me to code an algo in 20 minutes is not really that impressive. But I did it just last week, just to show someone how. It's like, here's how you do it. Took 20 minutes. This is my algo. This is the data on the screen that I use. Here's how I put it into Grok. Grok does this. I find these mistakes. I fix the mistakes in the code. I compile. It's done.
It's funny.
It works.
It's funny because I'm a system architect, so I look at systems with algorithms only, right? And I've done this for 14 years. And then one of my best friends, my business partner, he's a coder. And I'll go to him and say, here's what we're doing, and here's what it looks like, and here's the math behind it, and I need you to put it in code for me, right? I built an entire company on that. Exactly what you're talking about. I mean, everything to me is an algorithm. Everything that I do is an algorithm.
Oh, it really is. And this you might find interesting. So my coder's in Australia, and I had him code like my biggest algo that I've been using for years. And so the algo that I just told you that I coded last week, I said, I got a little present for you. And he says, all right. And I sent him the code. And I said, what do you think? He goes, it's great. I said, can you code this clean? He goes, no. So I literally input. Now, when I code something, the thing
is... Did you
use
ChatGPT or did you use like a...
Gemini.
Like a Gemini, yeah. I was about to say ChatGPT is not clean. Gemini is very clean. And you learn like the different types of AIs that are better at this stuff.
And different things are better for different things. And I'm told that like Claude is good for this. I heard Grok is better for contracts.
Well, Anthropic is actually really good.
For contracts?
Yeah. Anthropic is really good for coding, right? Because it spits out different, it'll give you different theories on how you want to code it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And this is something that I think if you're going to go into the world of AI, you should, when they teach you to fly an airplane, you fly the old ones first, right? They give you this basic airplane, it might be a prop, it's nothing special. You're not flying the F-16 on day one. And so I would recommend, if you're not going to hire a coach, first of all, hire a coach. And if it's not me, I don't care. Hire a coach. You got to put your money in the market. You got to learn how to trade. It takes the average person 4 years to become profitable as a forex trader. And 90% of forex traders lose 90% of their money in the first 90 days. Okay. Very low success rate.
I was like, I'll call you. I mean,
yeah,
I'm going to call you. I'll hire you as a coach. And then you said lose 90% of your money. I'm like, nope.
Well, these are the people who, first of all, these are the people who don't hire coaches.
Right.
No, not all of them. You're going to have successful traders who don't hire coaches. I'm not saying that, it's one or the other. I hired a coach. Now, I got into crypto trading in like 2017, and I've got good instincts, and I was able to make a success of that beyond just holding crypto. I was able to trade, learn how to trade, do either price action trading, technical trading, use the indicators and all that. But that was at a time when you just had to have a pulse and go long, right? And so when that bear market started, I'm like, I knew it was going to go down for a while. It had already gone down a fair amount. And I'm like, this might be something that doesn't come back for a while. And we didn't have the understanding of crypto then that we do now. We didn't know as well about the 4-year cycle, so on and so forth. And so I migrated over to Forex because that's a stable market. It's predictable. It's currencies. They're probably not going to go anywhere, not for a long time. And when I migrated to Forex, I hired a coach. I paid him thousands of dollars, right? I didn't mind. So with anything, you're going to increase your probability of success exponentially by hiring a coach. But let's just say you are one of the 10% who make it in that 4-year period. Would you rather make it in 4 years or would you rather make it in 1 year? That's a big question. You're losing 3 years of trading because you didn't want to pay, which is $100 a month to a guy like me, $300 a month to other people who don't do as well as I do. I would really recommend hiring a coach just for those reasons. And on top of that, one of the biggest things that happens in trading is people get very discouraged. And a lot of it is because they don't go through the process that I teach. But you could have a perfectly good algorithm and lose like 3 or 4 trades in a row, and you're like, forget it, I'm out. But the reality is you had a perfectly good algorithm. You just didn't have the rest of your situation built up.
Right.
Trading is not, you're not just rolling the dice and you're going to click some buttons and stay home and never have to leave the house again and make money. It's not like that at all. If you want to go get a degree in anything that's going to pay you, it's going to be at least 4 years. In trading, it's going to cost you a little money and time, and it's going to be not a lot of work. It's going to be simple work, but it's like a marathon. Marathons are not easy. They're very simple. It's 1 foot in front of the other. You just got to do it for 26 miles, right? It's the same thing with trading. You got to do the work and don't expect to get rich. And anybody tells you you're going to get rich is probably trying to take your money.
All right. So how do people? I'm gonna get with you. And the reason why, by the way, I want to tell everyone why I bring you on, and why I keep bringing on people that understand finances, because I think it's really important that people are like, well, I don't have any money. And I'm like, you don't have any money because you're not thinking about the things that we're talking about. And it's super important for me that I leave a legacy and I give people things that have made me successful and have made me, and given me the opportunity that I've had in my life. And so when I have you on, it's because I want people to engage with you. You don't pay me. I invite you on because I want people to engage with you. And so I just appreciate you coming on and letting me banter with you about some of my successes. And by the way, it hasn't always been successes. I've had some failures.
Well, no, I'll tell you what. I do my trades, a lot of them publicly. You get to see my wins and losses.
Yeah.
So this is one thing about the trading space. It's like 98% scams. And you see these people winning all these trades, and you think, every Monday I put out a report for free. And everybody get last week, it was like 4 trades that won. 2 big NASDAQ trades, a gold trade, and a GBP JPY trade, all won. And I just gave that away. I give that away on Mondays. The other thing is right now, I'm offering unlimited one-on-one coaching, provided 2 things, 2 caveats to that, because I charge $400 an hour for that. If you're not a client, if you're a client, it's $200 an hour. But the unlimited one-on-one coaching is there because if you let me put that coaching session on YouTube, then you're helping me. Now, I'll edit out your personal stuff. No one's going to know who you are if you don't want them to. And that's not going to last because my schedule's getting a little bit full. So that is what's going on right now. And yeah, I'll tell you what, Joe, you want to talk to me one-on-one, I will certainly not charge you. You just give me a call. We'll have a conversation. I'll give you any kind of information you want.
I'd rather you charge me and not charge someone that can't afford it.
Well, there you go.
You know what I mean?
And there's another thing that people should probably know. If you're being held back from this particular opportunity, they have proprietary desks, but a lot of them also are tricky and scammy, so you have to pick the right one.
Yeah.
The proprietary desks they'll test you. You'll have to trade consistently and successfully. You can't be a gambler. You have to be like a pro trader, and then they'll actually fund your account. But there's 80% of them that you just don't want to touch. So understand that you don't have to have the money to go put into trading. You just have to have the time to learn how to trade. And more than anything else, it's discipline. And that's what I got to say.
But my problem is that I make more money trading than I do in the real world. So
I think that it's going to turn into that more. Now, I know we talked about AI, machine learning. I prefer that term.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be more automation. I've seen a video of a robot lineman in China. I've seen a video of robots changing car oil in China and moving engines on jigs. We talked about this with my buddy V just earlier on another show. So the automation might take a while before it takes over all the jobs. But if you just extrapolate forward through time, that's what's going to happen. And I don't know how long it's going to take. And I don't know if we're going to see the second coming first. But I will say, and I'm not religious terribly, guys, just so you understand that. I'm starting to wonder now. But I will tell you that the markets probably are not going to go away. And I think it's better to build something in the real world. I do. I think it's way better to do that. And I've worked with my hands. I worked in construction. I was a mechanic. As a matter of fact, that's what I was doing when I became a trader. I just started to make my boss more money in trading than I was making him on the construction site. So he said, I just trade my money. That's how I started trading. So I think it's far more honorable in a way to make money in the real world. So this is why I give back for a pittance to try to help other people learn.
Well, I do appreciate it very much. And how do people follow you?
I'm over, it's Algo Factory on YouTube. At Algo Factory, you can go to algofactory.tech. That's the website right there. That's probably the easiest way is if you want to get to me, you can email me through that website, or it's Algo Factory Trading over on YouTube.
All right, awesome. Brother, I appreciate you very much coming on, and you'll hear from me here probably this coming week. And I'd love to just pick your brain off and show you my account so I can show you that what I'm saying is real.
Yeah, I trust you, but I appreciate that, and thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
All right, God bless you.
Ciao.
Thanks, Nick. I bring people like Nick on for this reason. The guy is so smart, and I don't think you guys understand that the opportunity you have when we're sitting here bantering back and forth. that it has for you. And some people are like, oh, I don't have any money. I don't have any money. You know, I talked about that trade account for $1,000. I didn't add in the other two parts, which is I did make some adjustments to the trades that it was making. That turned $1,000 into $1,600. It's not hard to do. You just have to touch grass, right? You have to be able to look around and learn. I was taking an Uber over here, and then we're going to go to a break because I have two other guests that are coming on to talk to us as well. But I was in an Uber, and I was talking to this guy, and he's lived in Denver for 15 years, came from LA, and we were just talking about things that he's doing. He says, I work at Frito-Lay, and you know, I keep saying I'm going to go out and do my own thing, and we're just having a conversation, just having a conversation in the Uber. And I started walking through, and he says, well, I want to do this, this, and this. I won't share all of it. And I was like, okay, but before you do those three, these are the three things that I think you should focus in on. And so we sat and talked for an extra 15 minutes. Matter of fact, he kept missing the turn to get me into the office. And I was like, finally I said, I turned left. I had a meeting I could go to, so sorry, I'd love to talk to you more. But he's like, nobody's ever told me those things. And so it's important that like people like Nick, and you're gonna love our next guest as well. They offer you something that, frankly, if you were walking by, you wouldn't know what it was. So I'm asking you to take the time, look at it, even if you don't have money and you're listening, to slow down just a little bit and to try it out. I know you don't have to try it out with him, but I would go explore things with him because he's super successful. And again, he just told you he was a mechanic. He's a mechanic that now is a trader that offers his services out to other people, and he's been ridiculously successful. I mean, renowned as being very successful at what he does. So we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be met with Michael Vecchione, he's been on here before, and Jimmy Dennedy. And so these are a police officer and a prosecutor, two of my favorite people. I missed the last time that Michael was on when he had Patrick because I was stuck doing something. And so I'm looking forward to this. We'll take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Oh, our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Well, Lisa and David, we're learning his name, and his name is Tyler Brown. He's a 46-year-old man from Boston who I-Team sources say was shot by a state trooper, and he's no stranger to law enforcement. In fact, in 2020, he was charged with attempting to kill Boston police officers. This is a photo of Tyler Brown from an officer safety bulletin that went out this morning in Boston. At about 12:30, Boston police officers attempted to do a well-being check at his home in Dorchester after his parole officer reported that he made suicidal statements. He was also allegedly seen on FaceTime with an assault rifle and said he would use it. The bulletin also mentioned his phone was pinging in Cambridge. Shortly after the bulletin went out, these videos of Brown were taken on Memorial Drive. He's seen walking down in the middle of the street, terrorizing drivers, waving and shooting a long gun. Witnesses say he shot at cars and in the air before I-Team sources say a state trooper shot him and he was taken into custody. And we're working to learn more about Brown's condition. As for the attempted murder charge, in 2021, he was sentenced to 5 to 6 years in state prison, followed by probation, and was ordered to undergo mental health evaluations and treatment. David, Lisa, really valuable.
Now, I want you to know that we talk about what's happening in society and the breakdowns that happen, and that's why we have Michael Vecchione and Jimmy on. Just to tell you a little bit about Mike, you guys already know this, but he was a former chief of the Rackets Division at the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. He has a career prosecutor spanning 4 decades, and he co-authored 4 true crime books and 2 true crime Kindle singles. His latest true crime ebook, The Sculptress, is now available. Jimmy. So Michael and I have talked about Jimmy before on the show. He retired from law enforcement, found a different calling, but he established a prison ministry. And you guys all know the fact that I always believe in breaking off the rearview mirror, that I've worked with the Dream Center, guys that served 10 years of a 20-year sentence and restating their life and reviewing that scarlet letter, and the things that I've done for, gang members and flag football and all the things that I've done in order to reach in and then touch the lives of young men that, frankly, are headed down a path that nobody wants them to go down. So Michael wrote a book. He authored the story of Jimmy's journey from Brooklyn's toughest cop to prison ministry, and that is Hard Guys Cry tells the story. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Jimmy, I think you got it. Okay, you can hear him. How you doing, Joe? It's been a while.
Oh, I'm just living the dream, brother. I don't know whose dream it is yet. I'm trying to figure it out, but busy getting myself in trouble everywhere I turn. I'm always in some trouble and somebody getting mad at me.
Doing okay. You're doing all right. Doing all right. Yeah. Keep it going. Keep it going. So thank you for having us. I guess I'll start off. I'll just tell you that, Hard Guys Cry, quite frankly, it was an honor for me to write the book. I've known Jimmy for 45, maybe even 46 years now. And we met when
you're only 50, so you guys were just hanging out when you were like 4?
Yeah, well, we're like 3 or 4 years old. Exactly. We met in kindergarten, actually. That was where we met. And so I met him when he made an off-duty arrest in his career of a guy that killed 2 of his colleagues, 2 police officers at the 79th precinct in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn. He was off duty, happened to be in the precinct that night to return a pair of boots to a fellow cop or show a pair of boots to a fellow cop that he had these boots, and he heard when he was at the desk talking to the desk officer about the 2 cops down, and he drove to the scene in his private car. And when he got there, and Jimmy will tell you the whole story, when he got there, there was a dead guy on the street, and it wasn't one of the cops, but it was one of the bad guys who had been in a shootout with the cops, who had gotten killed. We believe by his buddy. I think his buddy shot him, in the shootout. And what Jimmy saw at the scene was a trail of blood that went from one side of the street to the other, and then disappeared. And he kind of figured out that there was a car there, and that the person who escaped, and we knew there was a guy who escaped the shootout, it was a second person, got in the car and took off. And Jimmy got in his car and went to the hospital because the 2 cops were thinking that he thought that they needed blood because they were obviously badly injured. And when he got to the hospital, both of them had passed away. They were dead. But on the way to the hospital, he passed an automobile accident, a car crash. And after finding out that the 2 cops were dead, he grabbed another of his colleagues, another off-duty cop. Oh, no, I'm sorry, a plainclothes cop, and said, "Come with me. Let's go back. I want to go back and check out that automobile crash. Something about it told me." And there's an incident in Jimmy's life, or a thought in his life that kind of made him do that, go back to that scene. And when he got there, make a long story short, he was the guy. The guy had crashed because one of either the cops, probably the cops, had shot this guy in the leg. And when he got into his car to take off and escape, he ultimately bled out bled out to the point where he passed out, and that caused the accident. And what Jimmy did was, having been at the scene, he knew there were witnesses to the actual shooting, and he called back out on the radio to the scene and said, "Can you bring that witness to where I am?" And they did, and a woman walked up to the guy who was now on a gurney and said, "Yeah, that's the guy that shot and killed the cops." He made the arrest, and the rest that they say is history. Something happened in the ambulance, and I'll let Jimmy tell you that part of the story, because that's another interesting, very, very interesting part of the case, that later on he hears something on the street, and it turns out that was something that was actually ultimately came true. So I don't want to dominate this. This book is about the guy when I'm looking at the screen to my right, and I think he should pick up the tale. So Jimmy, why don't you start with what happened in the ambulance? And by the way, Joe, the guy who was charged with this killing was a member of the Black Liberation Army. He was also in Attica, and if you know your history, in Attica there was an Attica riot in which people were killed, in which cops were killed, and correction officers, inmates, etc. And he was one of the leaders of this thing, and he got out because of a ridiculous ruling by the governor of New York, who gave basically blanket immunity to everybody in the incident. And he was in Brooklyn, and people said, "Oh, he was visiting, he was meeting a friend." Yeah, he was visiting someone. They were about to plan another robbery, and who knows what would have happened at that robbery. So anyway, this is the guy who gets arrested. He gets put into the ambulance, and Jimmy and his partner, Paul Siracina, who's unfortunately no longer with us, an incident occurred in the ambulance. So
I have him in the back of the ambulance. He's a big guy, big, strong guy. And like Mike told you, he started the Attica riots. He was a big, strong, tough guy, right? So in the ambulance, we're interrogating him, and I said, why did you shoot the cops? And he said, "They shot me first." So now I know I got the right guy, right? With that, he grabs my gun that was on my belt on the side, tries to pull it out. Now we have a tug of war with the gun. And he gets it out, and he's moving it around. So we had to use the force that was necessary to remedy that situation, which we did. And they took him to the hospital, and we took him in the emergency room, and the nurse was working on him, and they took his pants off, and behind the belt buckle that he had like a cowboy type belt buckle, was a .22 Derringer. Right? And he also had handcuff keys in his pocket. So I got to interrupt for 1 second. Jimmy's very modest about this. When the guy pulled the gun out of his holster and pointed it at his partner in the ambulance, and what Jimmy did was he reached over and was a revolver, of course, and he grabbed the barrel while the guy was pulling the trigger, so a bullet couldn't come out and kill his partner in the ambulance. And the struggle occurred at that point. After that, and he gets to the hospital. So it was a cylinder, like the cylinder has to turn.
Yeah.
He grabbed the cylinder,
right?
Can't move it, right? So it was like an arm wrestle, kind of, like us against him for the gun, and he lost.
So it was, and it turns out that he was exactly what we thought. He was, a guy who started the Attica riots. He was a member of the Black Liberation Army. He was he's
just a bad guy.
A bad guy. And he winds up at some point leaving Brooklyn after all of this goes down. He goes to Virginia, and he holds up a liquor store and kills somebody in a liquor store in Virginia. So
wait, he did this after this?
Yeah. What happened?
How did he get out after he killed 2 cops?
Well, he got out because it's a very, very long story. The main witness to the case during the time that I had it Jimmy tells me when I met him that the main witness originally, who was in front of she was moving into the building in front of which the shooting took place, dies in the hospital. She went into the hospital. They originally thought she had a cold. And it turns out, what does she have? Encephalitis, Jimmy?
Herpes viral encephalitis in the brain.
Encephalitis. So the main witness to the case is gone. And the other thing that happened is that the cop's bullet that was in his leg, he refused to allow the doctors to take it out. And a judge who we went before to order him to take it out refused to do that as well. So we had a case that was ironclad, which turned out to be paper mache at the end of the day because of the loss of the witnesses and because of the fact that we couldn't get the bullet out. It was unbelievable. And the case.
And one more thing I'd like to add. Right, I was on patrol in Bedford-Stuyvesant during this trial, and
you should tell him the story, right?
A fella comes up to me, and he says to me, "You Jimmy Dennedy?" I said, "Yeah." And he says, "You locked up the guy who killed the 2 cops?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're not going to get a conviction." He said, "They have 2 people on the jury that are not going to convict." I said, "Really?" So I notified the district attorney's office, about what this particular guy said, and Mike will tell you the rest, how it went down.
Well, it turns out that this is a street guy, Joe. This is not some cop. This is not some lawyer. This is not somebody who knew anything. He knew that the defense had fixed the case. They had 2 people on that jury who, at the time when the jury went out, they were charged. The charges were the murder of the cops and the attempted murder of Jimmy and his partner in the ambulance. Those were the charges. What happened in the jury room is that, we found this out later, is that the 2 people who ultimately did not convict told the jurors, listen, if you guys if we vote that the attempted murder of the 2 cops are not guilty, we promise that we will vote guilty on the murder of the 2 police officers, okay? The 2 off-duty cops, I don't know what the situation was, why they had gotten to them, but they got to them, and they said, the other jurors said, okay, we'll, because they wanted to convict the guy of killing the 2 cops who were on duty. Guess what happens? They vote. That's correct. Once they voted not guilty on the attempted murder of Jimmy and his partner in the ambulance, they went off into the corner, literally in the jury room, and sat there and refused to deliberate.
Yeah.
And after, I don't know how many days, they declared a hung jury. The second case, it was tried a second time. The case got worse because we lost another witness. I don't remember exactly who it was. They lost, and it was another hung jury. And we're talking about, the first one was 10-2 for conviction. The second one, I think, might have been 8-4 for conviction. And then at that point, this was a big, high-profile case in Brooklyn. And it came to me. I was the head of a group called the Major Offense Bureau at that time. And the DA, who was Eugene Gold, was going to say, we're not trying the case again. We tried it twice, getting worse because we're losing people. And when you have witnesses testify, next time there's now a set of minutes against them. And if they aren't exactly the same as the what's in the minutes when they testify at this third trial, jurors have the tendency to believe that they're not telling the truth or that things are fixed. Okay, so the DA calls me in and says, we're going to do this one more time. Why? The president of the Police Benevolent Association went to him and asked him to do it one more time. I got the case. And this is my first time getting this case. And Jimmy is assigned to me now, along with the homicide detective who had the case. And we spent 3-4 months together before the case started again, looking for witnesses, doing things. Jimmy found, I know I'm jumping all around, but in the course of this quote unquote new investigation, Jimmy found when you go to a wake, sign a book as to, who was there and whatever the messages.
Yeah.
So he found the book of this guy Gonzalez, the dead guy who we found on the street, okay, who was dead, killed by one of his boys. You know who was signed into that book? Joanne Chesimard. She was signed into that book. She is the person she's one of the Black Liberation Army people as well, who, right? She Black Liberation Army, Jimmy, or another?
Yeah, she killed cops. They did armored cars. They did banks. They
Right,
did everything.
and she took off. She killed a cop in Jersey, took off, and now spent the rest of her life in Cuba, protected by the Cuban government. So that's how detailed we were. We found 2 new witnesses, and the lawyer for the defendant was a guy who was defending all of these Black Liberation Army guys who were killing police officers all over the city at that time. And he was a guy who basically did everything that he could to undermine the efficiency of the trial, everything that you could possibly imagine. This guy did, and I got to be honest with you. By the time I tried this case, it was, a wing and a prayer. That's how I had to do it, because it was very, very difficult, in spite of all of the things that Jimmy and the homicide detective did to find it.
If I could just check, Mike, 1 second. What you're up against here, Joe, right?
It sounds like the rotted judiciary is what it sounds like.
The defense has a right to look at the evidence, right? They have to look at the evidence.
Yeah.
So they were looking at all the evidence and stuff. So there was a key ring, right? And the key ring had 10 keys on it, right? And one of the 10 keys was that cuff key, the handcuff key, total of 10. So they're looking at the evidence, right? One of them slips another key, just a regular key, on the key ring. So the homicide detective, Tony Martin, real good detective, he's on the stand, and they have a voucher. This is a voucher. You recovered this? Yes, I did. How many keys? There are 10 keys on the key ring. He said, count them for the jury. 11. Counts it again. 11. 11 keys. It says 10 over here. How did that happen? In his summation, he says that we put the handcuff key on his key ring after the voucher was prepared. Like, we were sinister. We were trying to put our thumb on the scale to make this guy look bad, when it was the reverse. They listen, they had threats on me and my family. I had to have guys in front of my house with machine guns, shotguns in the house. My poor wife had to have a radio. Every time she went to the store, it was crazy. And then after that, we had guys living with us, car outside, guy inside. These are serious people.
Very bad people, Joe. Very bad people.
Well, know that you're telling the story of the last 6 years of my life, right? I had personal security detail, PSD, in my house, living there for 18 months, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and for the first 2 years after the 2020 election. So, you're certainly not telling me any story that I can't tell you that's happening even to this day. The evil it never stops.
Yeah, you can relate to it. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, area, Joe, they're killing cops all the time. It was about other shootings, guys next to me shot in the head, shot in the hand. Crazy. I mean, it's just bizarre. It was a bizarre time.
Yeah, it was. It was. But he gets out, Joe. That's why I was saying, gets out, he goes to Virginia, and he does this murder in Virginia. And guess what happens? He escapes from prison or jail in Virginia. He does. I'm at my desk now. I leave the DA's office, and I'm sitting at my desk, my law office, and I get a call, and it's a cop from some precinct in Brooklyn. And he says, "Are you Mike Vecchione?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Look, we're calling because we got somebody spotted this particular individual on the subway near your office. So we're alerting you to the fact that he's there, there may be some trouble, may have bad blood, etc." I said, "What station did you find it? Did you somebody see him?" They told me. He said, "I know where he's going. He's going to the Bronx to visit his father. His father has an apartment in the Bronx, and that's where he's going." I said, "Pass that on to the people who are looking for this guy." Guess what happens? They go up there, they arrest him in the Bronx. That's where they found him. Brought him back. He gets tried. It was Virginia, right? Or North Virginia?
Yeah,
Virginia. He gets tried in Virginia, and he gets convicted, but he gets out again. He gets out early. I'm not sure why. Ultimately, he He gets out. I don't know what happened to him or how he's no longer with us. He's dead at this point. But this is a guy who lived a charmed life. When I tell you a charmed life, his wife, who helped him get out from under the charges at the in Attica, became one of his defense attorneys, and she was a very, very wealthy individual whose father was bankrolling, the defense. They called a Supreme Court judge, New York State Supreme Court judge, to testify as a character witness against this guy, and none of it was legitimate. It was the most frustrating thing you could possibly imagine, Joe. And at the end of the day, and I'll tell you this, and Jimmy knows the story. The case ends on a Friday. Jury goes out. Saturday, we go back, and I'm with Jimmy and the homicide detective and Paul Siracina, the other cop who was in the ambulance. They're in my office, and we're waiting for the verdict. And we get a call, there's a verdict, right? And of course, it turns out to be, at this stage, at this point, a not guilty. I'm not ashamed to tell you this. I left the courtroom, found an empty witness room in the courthouse, sat on the floor and cried. That's how much time and effort we spent. I spent, he spent, and everybody else spent in this case. It was just unreal. And but the very, very, very best thing that happened as a result of it is I met this guy, and I became the best of friends. We got to know each other. Our families got to know each other. And when he came to me or called me a few years ago and said, "Hey, Mike, you're writing books. Maybe you can do one, about me and my career."
And Mike, if you back up a second, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Joe, I had two guys break into my house, and they come up onto the second floor where the bedroom was. My wife was sleeping next to me. We had a 2-year-old baby between us, and down the hallway was my oldest son, who was 12, sleeping. And I hear creaking coming up the steps. These guys had broken into my house, cut my phone wires, right, so I couldn't call out, right, and came in my bedroom with guns. My puppy was barking downstairs. I heard him. I heard creaking. I thought it might be my son going to the bathroom, but it wasn't, right? I had two guns up on the armoire. I took them down. They came in my bedroom, and the shooting started, right? Shooting in the house. They're running down the stairs. They go out. One guy was shot. One guy went the other way, right? And it was just bananas, psychologically. You know what I mean? You had this other case with the shooting with the cops. Now they're in your house, and they cut your phone wires. You know what I mean? They know you're on the job. It's bananas. So after all this, right, they want to indict me for attempted murder for shooting this guy because they shot him in the back.
In the house.
In the house.
Yeah.
So I had to get a lawyer. So I reached out to Mike, my buddy, and I told him the story, and he wound up coming in the grand jury with me.
Wait. You were a police officer at the time.
Yes.
Somebody's in your home.
Yes, two guys.
You're a HVT, high value target for the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right? And they charge you with attempted murder. Because
no, didn't charge him. Didn't charge him yet. Let me tell you what happened.
Okay, before you do that, yeah. I'm going to take a quick break so they can do a tape change. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. I want to hear this part. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Our master bakers teach class every week, so whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, We're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Okay, bring them back in.
Let me just fill you in. So what happens is he shoots this guy on the way out of his house, right? The guy's running down the stairs. He forgets to tell you that the guy had a gun, and he points it at him. He turns and points it at him, and Jimmy fires. By this point, he's almost out the door, and the shot goes through the door. He doesn't know if he hit him, he didn't hit him. Turned out, we know later on, he hit him like in near the ass or in the back of the...
under the wing bone, under his shoulder wing bone.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. But he gets away.
That made it tough for him to breathe.
Well, yeah. And there's a shootout on the street. That's the other thing about this. There's a shootout. Jimmy's barefoot. And I got to tell this funny part of it. He's got a tenant who lives in the downstairs apartment in his house. And he's out on the street, and there's a shootout. He's shooting back and forth, back and forth. And this guy comes up to him. He's kind of behind him. And it was the tenant's boyfriend, who is a cop. The guy was balls ass naked, Joe, and he ran out because of the shooting and wanted to give Jimmy his gun. He took it to continue the gunfight on a Brooklyn street. What time of night was it? It was after midnight, right?
3:05 in the morning.
So they don't know if the guy's hit, not hit. Turns out later on he goes into a hospital, and there's an arrest made. So Jimmy now is called to the DA's office, to the grand jury by the DA's office, to testify against the burglar and attempted murder. The guy was shooting at him. So he goes into the grand jury, and he meets the DA who's going to put the case into the grand jury. And as a guy that I know, I started in the DA's office with him. And Jimmy kind of knew him, but he was a good guy, a guy that was a friendly guy to cops. And he says to Jimmy, after he puts him in the grand jury, they get the indictment. On the way out, he says, Jim, I got to tell you something. The district attorney, Elizabeth Holtzman, you might know that name. She was a congresswoman, very big liberal. Mm-hmm. She wants to see you in her office. So Jimmy says, all right. He goes over to the DA's office. She sits him down and she says, we're going to put the case against you for shooting these people into the grand jury, because you shot him in the back. That was it was unbelievable. And that's when he calls me. I pick up the phone, I call the DA, the assistant DA, and I say, his name was Ned's first name. I said, Ned, what the hell is going on? Are you fucking crazy? This guy was defending his family. He shoots a guy in his house. He said, Mike, I agree with you, but she's crazy. You know that. So
hold on a second. This is the same shit we have going on in the system now. I know, but you're going to let somebody go after an innocent person. Look,
luckily, he and I go to the grand jury. I'm with him, and I grab Ned off to the side, and I say, is this the same jury that heard the case against the guys that burglarized his house? He goes, yeah. I said, okay. How did they do? How did he do? Mike, he did fantastic in the grand jury. I said, call Jimmy over. I said, Jimmy, you're going to testify. You're going to testify, even though you didn't have to. And he gets, he wasn't subpoenaed to go into the grand jury. We brought him there I brought him there to find out whether or not it was worthwhile to put him in. And he goes in and testifies. How long did it take, Jimmy, before we got word that it was
quick? It was quick.
Yeah, very quick. We walk out of the grand jury. DA is in there charging the grand jury of the law. He walks out. They now vote. And we're talking about maybe, I don't want to say seconds, but minutes. And he walks in, what happened? No true bill, Jimmy is free. Will you imagine that the DA, this woman who hated cops, she was a DA who hated cops, and she was one of the people, she's like the DAs are now. And this is, what, 1983, 82, 83, something like that, when all of this happened? Yeah. So not only did I work with him as the prosecutor in the case in which he made this big arrest, but now I'm defending him in the grand jury for a case that was as ridiculous, Joe, as you could possibly. And thank God we were able to get out from under this.
So let me, as a person that has had people come to my house with guns to do harm, and recently, I can tell you that there's a thing that goes through your mind that they're leaving in a bag. It doesn't matter how it. I mean, you're not shooting at them to get them out of your house. You're shooting at them because you want them. This is an example of people not coming into your home to do harm to your family, right? It's different to attack you on the street where it's just you. It's something completely different when you go into a man's home and
Without
you have.
doubt.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what I told one of the district attorneys. That I fired 11 rounds that I claimed. I didn't claim the other cops 6 rounds, right? I didn't want to jam him up, you know? So I told him, had I hit him with the first round, I would have stapled him to the floor with the other 10 rounds.
Right.
So let's understand each other. This is the way it is. Now, with that said, I disliked criminals. I disliked these type of people. I was always in trouble. I was on the violent prone list. I was always in the trial room. He was the director of the advocate's office in the trial room. That's like a court that prosecutes a cop. And I meet Mike there all the time because I was in trouble all the time, you know. And as the good Lord has it, I wind up going into prisons. Guys talk me to this prison ministry thing. I said, listen, you got the wrong guy. You know, I'm not that type of guy. You're a plumber. You're a carpenter. You don't know what these guys are, you know. And I said, listen, I know what these guys are. We need one more guy. Make a long story short, right? I go up. The guys were great. They were like guys from my neighborhood. They say, don't.
The prisoners. He's talking about the prisoners were great, right? That's what you're talking about.
I'm telling you, man. They have more. They have more. You found out that they have more loyalty and they have more than the people that you thought were the good guys.
Yeah, and you know what? They say don't always refer to them as a resident, not an inmate. Never ask them what they did. I say, what do you do? What are you, stupid? You know? And they say, yeah, well, Jimmy, you know. And then the retreat weekend was over. We had to sleep up at the federal prison. Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
yeah.
Sunday, we have a little party for them. And you can bring the wives. My wife came, right? Then there's a follow-up every Wednesday. I wasn't going to go. That was it. I did my thing. I was socially boxed in. That's it, right? And I said to myself, I wonder if any of my guys are going to be there. I said, let me try one Wednesday, right? All my guys are there. And the volunteers drop off. So you wind up picking up more guys the next Wednesday. Then we started another night, 2 nights we started. You know, I started a Catholic night. We're Catholic. Started a Catholic night. So I got interdenominational night, a Catholic night. Then in another prison, a state max, the priest says he wants to start something over there. I said, sure. So it winds up 25 years, 2 days a week, Joe. And it was the opposite of anything I've ever done in my life. You know, and I'd be the least likely guy that these guys would appreciate. They love you. That guy got married. Ready for this? He got deported. I did some favors for him in the jail and try to help him out, right? It's in the book. But he gets out. A few years later, my wife, Norlene, comes over to me and she says, Javier's on the phone from Colombia. I said, Javier from Colombia? I said, hey, Javier, how you doing, buddy? We're talking back and forth, stuff like that. And he says, I'm getting married today. And I don't want to get married without your blessing. Me? You got to be kidding me. Me? You know? But you don't know the effect you have on people. You know? And it turned out to be a good thing for me. You can change the way people think and the way they act. And the guys that are never going home, how can we make this bearable together in here? You know what I mean? And it's just amazing. Big mafia bosses. gangbangers from the Bronx, Irish mafia guys from Boston, just a mixed crew of guys. And they all have one thing in common, in my opinion, right, is no father figure, lack of father figure. And some of them are devoid of spirituality at that point. They look in the mirror, they see ugly. You know, they're not ugly, but they see ugly.
So
I'm sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
All I want to do is just to fill in something here. I think it's important for the viewers to know this. When he told me about this, about wanting to do this, one of the stories that he told me totally, I was going to do this, but it totally convinced me. One of the guys who was in his ministry for 5 years, he had been in prison for 25 before that, and then the last 5 he did in Jimmy's group. He was a Boston mobster when Whitey Bulger was running the city, and he has. I'll tell you about this, but it's not really pertinent to the story about him why he's in prison. But he gets beaten up and almost killed by 2 mobsters up in Boston. They stab him 12, 13, 14 times, almost kill him. And when he comes out of the hospital, he goes looking for them, finds one of them, and he takes care of him. Never finds the second guy. He then gets arrested, charged, convicted, goes to prison, and meets Jimmy 5 years before he's getting out. Jimmy spends all his time, and he says to Jimmy when he comes to Jimmy's ministry for the first time, I want to learn how to forgive. I want to forgive, and I want to learn how to forgive. So Jimmy says, well, spend the time, spend it with me, and you'll get what you need. So now the guy gets out, says to Jimmy tonight, before he's getting out, says goodbye to him. A year or 2 later, or shorter than that. Anyway, he gets his phone. How much? Yeah, a couple of years later, Jimmy gets a call at his office. It's this guy, Joe, and he says, "Oh, Jimmy, hey, I won't give you his real name. I'll call him Joe. Joe, hey, So Jimmy says, "How you doing?" Yeah, how you doing? He says, "I got to tell you something. I got to tell you what happened to me. I think it was the night before." He says, "I'm on my way home." He had gotten a job. By the way, Jimmy wrote him a letter, a recommendation letter, so he could get a job, and he's working now. And he basically turned his life around. And when he's on the Boston subway or Boston train, whatever it is, he sees the second guy, Joe, the guy that almost killed him 30 years before, sees him. And this individual, Joe, our guy Joe, walks up to him. And Joe tells Jimmy on this phone call that the guy, when I walked up to him, the guy essentially pissed his pants. And this Jimmy's guy, Joe, walks up and says to him, that thing that you think is going to happen, it's not going to happen. He says, I forgive you. I forgive you for what you did to me back, 30 years ago. And he said to Jimmy on the phone, it would have been easier for me before I met you and before I spent all those years with you, easier for me to whack this guy than to ever say I forgive him, that I forgive him for what he did. That to me was just the foundation of what I needed to, it was the beginning of what I needed to start to put together this part of Jimmy's life in terms of the ministry. Because if a guy who is a criminal his entire life and a murderer probably can do what he did because of Jimmy spending time or 5 years with Jimmy, then people have to know that, because that to me is almost miraculous that he could turn around somebody like that. And that's not the only story like that. The book is full of them, and there are others that we didn't even get into. If I had gotten into all of them, the book would have looked like an old dictionary, with stories. So I felt that, and that people needed to know what he did, because I think that there are life lessons in what he did. And it just is something that, you know, again, I said at the beginning, I'm so proud of, and it was of him, and it was an honor for me to be able to tell this story. And, you know, so it had to tell you that, because it's an example of what he did for people. And we're talking about the worst of the worst. We're talking about, as he said, gangsters, mobsters, drug gangs.
So let me ask you that question. I want to ask Jimmy that question. Jimmy, when you were in the prison, you had the before and after, right? The before, where you already had your preconceived notion of who they were. Then you had the paradigm crash, because it happens to everyone, right? You crashed, and now you had to look at these men as men. Right? It no longer was they're wearing a number. It no longer was that they were a criminal. That scarlet letter was gone. You were looking at these men as men, and you were understanding hurt people, and now you're hearing stories, and they're telling you about their lives, and you can't imagine living your life that way, going through those things. And I mean, I can't even imagine the number of stories you got where you're like, okay, that checks with why you're here, right? But you had to take it home. And I just want to ask you this, because I think it's important for people to understand where healing comes from. You going into that prison for 25 years, twice a week, healed you. It didn't necessarily heal them only. It also healed you.
Absolutely. And it made me a better person. I read the Bible every day, still read the Bible every day. I learned church history. Any question that they had, I wanted to be able to answer. We had volunteer clergy come in as well. But some of them, biker guy, he started his own gang, the Diablo motorcycle gang out in California. They were nationwide. He was the head of it. He brought a guy in, right, and to one of our retreat weekends, and the guy did 3 tours in Vietnam in the Marine Corps. I was a Marine, you know, and then he wasn't sure if he wanted to be there. So he sits next to me and he says, "Let me tell you something." He said, "What would you think of me if I told you, right, I shot 2 cops? What would you think of me?" Right? I said, "Let me tell you something. What would you think of me if I beat the shit out of a guy and he was in critical condition because he shot 2 cops?" You know, so I threw the ball right back in his court. Nobody's different. Everybody's the same. Nobody's taller. Everybody's exactly the same. We could try to work this out together any way you want. This guy came all the time. Yeah. And then he was released, and he was released up near my home, and he had no family. He had nowhere to go, nowhere to do. You're not supposed to get involved with him. I had this guy over my house Christmas, Easter. He had nowhere to go. Where was he going to go? You know? So, and what happens is, it's not that you're bleeding heart or any of this nonsense. A guy comes in my house, I'm going to shoot him again for sure. You know? But you're all on the same team here. Like I said, the guy think they're ugly. You know, the one guy is in the book was crying. He said, "Maybe I'm not all bad after all." How could you think that? You know, how could you think that? So the object is to stand next to them. We're the same. The same coin. There's a head and the tail is the same coin. You know, so the object is to try to make them believe that they are worth something. They're worth saving. Nobody's better than the next guy. And there's hope, you know.
Now, you talked about him healing. Let me tell you who else he healed. Me. I was a Catholic, born and raised my entire life. Fell away until I listened to this story and listened to, because I know Jimmy and I know what he went through in Brooklyn and what kind of person he was, and now what he's doing, and inspired me to the point where I made an appointment to see the pastor of the church where I now live. I didn't know him at all. I didn't know the church at all. I just made an appointment, went to the rectory. He said, "Sit down." I told him what I wanted to do, and I told him why, because I was inspired to come back to the church by what this man did and what he did for people who are not like me, but in a sense they were like me. And I made a full confession that day, everything I ever did in my life, and I have not missed going to church and having communion on Sunday since that. And that's probably 7 years ago when we first started the idea of doing this. So I was so happy and proud of what he did for me that it's actually in the book. It's the appendix to to the story. So you're correct. He was healed, and he healed me, and he healed all these other guys. It's really just an inspirational story that deserves to be out there. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, it is. So I have a parallel life. I'm pretty open about my life, and I stopped short of talking about my childhood, just because it was terrible. For the most part, it was terrible. And I left home at a very early age, and my brother was murdered by a police officer in 2017, and so I hated the police growing up. Hated. I mean, and in a way that's, you just hate police. And I sold drugs at 16. I mean, these are things that I've talked about very openly, and that I got out. Like I found out I was smart, right? And a large portion of what I do today and things that I give back with it is this guilt of not getting caught when I was a kid, but having this life-changing God moment in my life, a couple times in my life, I guess I could say. The first time straightened me out to the point where I stopped selling drugs and stopped acting like a hooligan. And the second was when, that got me on a better path, but I was still a guy that liked to get in trouble. I loved to fight. Loved to fight. I would walk into a bar. I never picked a fight. I've never picked a fight anywhere, ever. But I finished a shit ton of them, right? I was just the guy that, I remember this guy was picking on my friend, and I literally I ate him up, man. Another guy had offered me $10, said he was gonna whoop my ass. I'm sitting next to a pool table. And so I had a pool stick in my hand. I shoved that thing right underneath his chin, flipped him over the back of it, just got down there and just whooped on him. I didn't show up to get in a fight. I'm a happy-go-lucky guy, right? And because I did all these things, I got in a fight on the way to work. I think I had the first road rage incident ever, where a guy literally is behind me. He gets out of the car. I get out of the car. He was in front of me. Excuse me. He gets out of the car, does this. I get out of the car. I'm like, all right, I'm on. It's on. I beat the brakes off this guy, leave him right next to his door, go around him. I had a little tear in my shirt. And I'm like, daggone it, little cut. And somebody asked me, what happened? I was like, I don't know. I beat a guy on the way to work. And I didn't say, it didn't bother me, right? It didn't bother me at all, because I'm like, hey, they had what they had coming, right? I mean, I'm 22, 23 years old. My daughter's born, and she changed my life. My daughter changed. I had 12 points on my license. I had a suspended license. I'm driving to the hospital, and I see my daughter, and I'm like, yeah, I got to change my life. I got to change who I am. I can't continue to be. I mean, I was going down the airport runway, Stapleton Airport here in Denver. They closed it, moved it out to DIA. I'm on my motorcycle. The gates open for the runway. I look over. We all saw Top Gun, right? I'm like, I want to take my motorcycle 120 miles an hour down the runway. So I did. And I got arrested. I got arrested for going down the runway. And my daughter is just about to be born. And my boss gets a phone call, and I walk into his office, and he must have fired me 4 times in 15 minutes, right? And then when my daughter was born, I drove the speed limit all the way home. Like, everything about my life changed when my daughter was born. It's weird.
You know what, Joe, I find in the jail, right? The guys sometimes leave the chapel. It looks like they're stealing second base. They think spirituality is like not a masculine thing. So there's a guy. He was a bodybuilder, big guy, for the wise guys. He was like one of the soldiers, I guess. And he sat down. I used to train a fight at one time about 75 pounds ago, right? And he says to me, yeah, Jimmy, I'm doing 10 rounds on a heavy bag. He says, I'm bench pressing 375. I said, well, wow, Anthony, that's pretty good, really strong. Yeah. He says, I said, let me ask you a question. I says, in the mess hall, you say grace before you eat? He said, Jimmy, he said, come on, it's a joint, it's a prison. I scratched my head, you know, I did like a Columbo. I said, you know what? The Jewish kid wears a yarmulke. He says, hey, everybody, look at me. The Muslim kid wears the kufi, right? And you're stealing freaking second base? I thought you're a tough guy. You're doing 10 rounds on a bag. You're benching 375. I tell him, you're living on one testicle, my man. You can't live. You gotta drop the other ball. And that's, you could be the toughest guy in here, but be a good guy. You just can't be a bully. And after a while, they respect you. You know, the toughness doesn't impress anybody. Everybody's a tough guy.
So my daughter was born. My son was 2. My daughter and son are in the back of a Lexus. I'm doing really well. I was really blessed with an immense amount of, I'm like the Forrest Gump of business. Like before you guys came on, I was talking to this trader guy. And I was like, man, I don't even know how, like I didn't know how I uncovered, like I took all the information for the election stuff and put together this model. I couldn't figure out how I was doing even that, right? I mean, my brain just works different than everybody else's.
Right.
But we just went down to feed the ducks. We get in the car, we drive back. It's a brand new Lexus. And this guy and these 3 guys in a Jeep Wrangler with no doors hucks a beer bottle up my car, hits the side of the car, blows up, right? I'm like, oh no. So I look back, I give him the finger, and he pulls up, he literally does a U-turn to come around me. I was like, oh, this is not gonna end well for them. And so I pull over the side of the road, just over the highway. My ex-wife is in the passenger seat. She said, Joe, and I'm like, nope, these guys are gonna learn a lesson. So I get out of the car, I look back for a minute, and I think I see my kids like looking up behind the seat, and I hit the one guy's hat, and bam! I knock them all, I just took them all out, like boom, boom, boom. This guy across the street gets out of his car, says, I saw the whole thing. Get out of here, get out of here. Man, I must have waited like 3 weeks for someone to come arrest me. I just annihilated these 3 guys for hitting my car with a beer bottle. And I walk back to the car, and both of my kids are looking out the back window at me, like up on the thing, at what I just did. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I get back in the car, and I'm like, I didn't say a word. Nobody said a word. Got back on the highway, went straight home.
Yeah. Well,
crazy, right?
That's back when I was supposed to be civilized. My daughter was born, but he threw a beer bottle. My kids are in the car. So, I mean, look, I think I've gotten a lot better. I mean, obviously I have. I have stories now where, you know, if somebody gets in a road rage incident, I buy them a coffee, find out a lot about them. But that led me, Jimmy, to do some of the things that you do in your life. It led me to truly care about people in my community in a way that's almost unhealthy. Because now I really, truly want to do the right thing all the time. I want to help as many people as possible. Like I believe in the idea of being my brother's keeper. I volunteer. I'm not afraid to hang around felons, right? I love on them. I truly live my life in such a way that I've been able to be an influence on these men. And I think that's what this election stuff the last 6 years has taken away from me, is that I was in this service, sat on every board, helped single moms, did all this stuff, still ran my business. And so it takes its toll on you when somebody takes that from you. So anyway.
Well, it's almost mirrored what this guy has done in terms of what his life was. Not wrong. And Jimmy wasn't a cop who broke the law, but he was a tough guy. And going back or going into these prisons to talk to the people, he said to me, these are the kind of people that I used to lock up. I can't go in. And he did, and 25 years later. And you know what, Joe? What stopped it? COVID. That's the only thing that stopped it. He probably would have been still doing it. Maybe not now, but certainly beyond 2020. So look, and the thing is, other part of what he did for them is another quick example. A guy who he had been mentoring for a long time was getting out and got out right around Christmas time. So he's in prison. Now he's out at Christmas time. He's got no money to take care of his little kids and to have a Christmas dinner and buy presents for them. So what did Mr. Dennedy do? He got together with other people who were as kind and as charitable as he was, collected money, and him and his friends and his wife showed up at this guy's apartment in the Bronx with presents, with food, and this family who wasn't going to have a Christmas had a Christmas because of what he did. So it didn't end. What his charity did not end when these guys walked out at the end of a session. It went on after they got out, when they were out, and families and things of that nature. So it's again, I know it sounds like an ad but this is an ad for the book. This is a terrific story.
Now I got to read the book. Now I got to read the book.
You do.
I mean, I got to read the book, and then Jimmy, I got to come see you after I read the book. Yeah.
Yeah. The book will be out. The hardcover will be out June 2nd, but the digital version is out now. You can get it now. The Kindle version or digital if you have, Barnes and Noble, Nook, that kind of thing. So even though I'm on there as the author, I'm telling you, Joe, you will not be disappointed by the stories that are in this book. And we didn't really touch a lot on his time as a cop. This guy did some great things when he was a cop too, in terms of using his brain and using his wiles to get things done for people. And he helped people then too.
Jimmy, you know what that means, right?
What's that, Joe?
That means you're a hunter. It means that you're a hunter. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm an analogy guy. I think in analogies, and I tell the guys in the jail, and they're big boys, so how do I relate to them? I say, here's the way you do it, right? You're on the bench, bench pressing. You can't get any more up, you shake it. That weight's going to crush your chest, right? You can't get it up. You have a spotter behind you. With 2 fingers, he takes that up, puts it back on the rack. I said, we're called to be each other's spotters. Yeah. I'll be your spotter if you'll be my spotter. And another thing, last thing, I'm an analogy guy. We used to train fighters, right? So I worked against Hagler and a few other guys, good big fighters. But anyway, in a fighter, right? He's in the ring, he's beat, he's exhausted, he's bloody, he goes down, right? He's down. He knows if he stays down 10 seconds, he's not going to get hurt anymore. But he gets up. And the first thing he does, he looks to his corner, right? Bell rings, he goes to the corner. There's 3 guys. One guy will take care of his wounds. One guy will try to revive him. And the other guy will give him instructions, right? They come back sometimes to win the title. We need a corner. You need someone you can trust. Not necessarily the most personable guy, the guy that you can trust and get good advice from.
Yeah.
You need to work people's corner. And I tell them, I'll work your corner if you work my corner. People need a corner. That's what you need.
Well, I call that being your brother's keeper, right? And doesn't matter where you are, you can fill that gap, you can fill that void for almost anyone at any time. But you got to be ready. You got to be. That's why I say you're a hunter, because it didn't matter what time it was. The second you knew you had to hunt, and this is hunting souls. 25 years you hunted souls. You looked for souls to save those souls, not to kill them, right? And when you're on the street, it was different. Your job was to lock them up and to take their soul, because frankly they had taken someone else's.
Right, exactly, and to save the people that they had harmed. So that was another part of his,
you were your brother's keeper. You're a hunter. You're a hunter. And look, there's not many of us, just so you know. There's not many of us. Or there's not many that are built like us. There's not many guys that will run down the steps chasing the guys outside, right? It's fight or flight. They've already left the room. You're doing a check. No. Hunters finish. We finish. We finish what we start. And I think that's a testament. President Trump is a hunter, right? And he grew up very wealthy, so he was a wealthy hunter. Those are even more hard to find, right? Most of the success you see for big billionaires or people came from nothing, learned to hunt, right? And we're driven by something that you can't describe. You can't put it in words. You can only feel it, right? So
I agree, sir.
I will read your book and I will have you back on. Gentlemen,
thank you, sir.
Jimmy, thanks
for
being you. Thank you for the souls that you actually saved, including Michael here. It's always good.
Absolutely.
And thank you for being you, Joe. You're a stand-up guy.
I've been known to stand up a few times. And I grew up in Washington, D.C., so not far from New York City. So I'm an East Coaster, so that's why I think that's what defined me and made me fearless. I mean, you're fearless. I was fearless, right? I still am. Stupid, almost, to a degree.
Well, Joe, there are other stories that we couldn't get to, obviously, for time. But yeah, if you have us back, we'll tell some of those stories as well.
I would love to hear them. I could sit here all day and listen to the story. I mean, I get pumped. Like, I'm sitting here listening, and I am pumped because I'm with my tribe. I'm with the people that I know, frankly, have the what's up, right? And those are hard to find.
And so are we, by the way. So I want you to know that. So that's it's an honor to be on your show, and I'm happy that you did it, that you had us on, and I'm looking forward to coming back already. So
it'll be awesome. I'll make sure that it's on Kindle. I don't have a Kindle. I might actually buy a Kindle just so I can read it. Yeah,
it's on Kindle right now.
Is it on Apple Books?
Yeah, it's on whatever digital platform you have. And it will be in Apple Books, yes. And Barnes & Noble, I don't know if you have a Nook, that's Barnes & Noble's Kindle, akin to Kindle. But
I usually buy the book and sit and read it. I just sit in bed and read it. But what's that?
It'll be out in a little while. Just wait.
Yeah, you can pre-order.
I don't know if I can. Like, as I'm speaking, I know that you know what I know that I know, and I know that you know what I know, right? So it's a different feeling, right? As you started talking, I just was like, all right, this is it. When you said you ran down the stairs and chased the guy at the door, I was like, my man.
It is. There's the cover, Joe, and I have to give credit where credit's due in terms of the cover. My wife designed that cover. She's a menswear designer. She's an artist, and when she heard the story, the mixture of you see it. So she did a great job, I thought. So,
right. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I'll have you on soon.
Thank you for having us, Joe.
Definitely read it. Absolutely. God bless you.
It was a pleasure to meet you. God bless, my friend.
All right. God bless you. Those are some amazing men right there, and the stories that he tells, it's let's just say hard guys cry. I don't know what it is. I was doing an interview yesterday with Colorado Hispanic Republicans, and I started talking about the work that I have had to step away from that has defined me, and that is working for these different organizations that help impoverished people, poor people, and I get so angry that it makes me emotional. Because the last 6 years has taken that from me. And I did the same thing when I was in court. I'm in court with this protection order deal, and I'm thinking to myself, these assholes took from me what was never theirs to take. And in the middle of that, it took away my ability to help people escape the very thing that these little wackos say that they're trying to represent, that they actually care about people, but they don't. So So in hearing the story, hearing what Jimmy had to say, hearing what Michael had to say, I could feel it. And I just told you guys about the fact that I used to fight. It's not, if you've been watching my podcast, you know this. And you know that I'm somewhat reckless with being authentic. It was asked to me last night, like, Joe, how you gonna unite people when you're in a party, when you're taking shots and throwing sledgehammers? And I just said, I probably won't. I probably won't unite everybody. My goal is not to unite everybody. My goal is to be mission driven. Just drive right past it. You want to get on the train, you want to go with me, no problem. I'm starting to figure out very quickly that in order to get to a solution, get to an outcome, we have to be willing to give up a little bit of ourselves. And I want to say this, and maybe this is being a little bit too personal, but I'm going to read this to you if I can. And so, Ali, I'm going to share this. I hope you're listening or watching so you understand this. Serious question. Will it consume you if you never see justice? Is God's justice enough? And I responded with, I think so. It's a tough question, though. She says we aren't accountable for the sins of man, only for our own. Yes, fight for truth and justice, but make peace with yourself. Embrace the peace in the midst of the world. There's so much more to come, so don't be consumed by what's in front of you now. Eternal perspective. God's justice is perfect. Read Isaiah 40 to the end. So I'm sharing something personal, so I hope, Al, you're not upset with that, but I think someone can learn something from it. I think one of the hardest parts about me is that when you punch me, I don't feel pain. I don't feel pain. And I want to fight harder. And when you lie about me, I want to work harder. And when you attack me, I want to fight harder. And when you say something's not true and I know that it's true, I don't want to let it go. And Patrick's built that same way, by the way. I mean, a certain part of my team holistically is all built that way. And some, I mean, I have the person that's taken care of all my stuff for the last 12 years. She's made sure that my schedule's up and everything's done and everything. She's had to live through the chaos of the last 12 years or more, a little more than that. But Patrick is built that way, and I wanted to let you guys know, if you could just pray for Patrick. He's in court today, and his attorneys basically annihilated, in my opinion, the state, the school board. And so far, up until this point, the judiciary has been so rotted to the core that it's really hard to see the outcome. And what I got from having the conversation with Jimmy and Michael is that these evil characters have been involved in the process for a long time. I mean, we think it's a new phenomenon. Maybe there was a higher degree or higher number of people that were better, that were more ethical, that were part of the system back in the 80s or even 90s. And maybe we've lost that. But the school to prison pipeline's been around for 5 decades. The barrios and the shitty schools that exist in Harlem have been the same in Harlem for 50 years. They've been talking about, hey, we're going to do better for education and give people opportunity for a long time. And some get that little call. They get the call for the winning the lottery. But a vast majority of them don't never get the opportunity. Nothing seems to change because change is the one thing that is inconsistent. It just doesn't happen. We're going to fix this. They won't fix it. We're still high taxes and terrible roads. I think that probably the roads were just as terrible 50 years ago. And the one thing that's consistent is turmoil, things we go through. So I will tell you, I'm never going to get to the end where I feel like justice is fully happened. I think that your comment to me kind of made me realize that. When is the full justice realized? I mean, we had over 2 million Americans that died during COVID. Who's going to be responsible for their justice? How about the people over in Iraq? Weapons of mass destruction, we drop bombs and people die. And how is it that we can be bipolar and love our country and realize that really bad people in our government have hurt people all over the world? That more people have died in conflicts that we've created in the United States than ever died in World War II. And some of you may believe that, some of you may not believe that. Go check my math. Syria, Kosovo, Vietnam, I mean, you want me to keep going? We had Mongolia. We had the stuff that happened in Colombia. We have Panama. We have, I mean, I could go through 50 countries that we did not respect the sovereignty. Sudan, Kenya, Somalia, Eritrea, Ethiopia, that nice little war between the two. Who was right in the middle of it? The CIA. Saudi Arabia, Syria, Egypt. I mean, Jordan, the conflicts in Israel. You think that's all run by, and you could have the same people in Israel that are also in the United States that pull punches. That could be true. What's also true is that I'm not sure that that's the point. I'm not sure that justice is the point. I think a large part of me believes this. Life is a test. If you give it to God and you just fulfill the test and you use your talents the way they should be used, and you use them for good and you don't go join club evil, then you have a high probability that you'll make it out and that you'll be blessed, even if you don't make it out. So, I guess the answer is yes, I'd be okay with it. As long as you touch grass, love on your family, crack a couple jokes, and be able to tell stories like I just got to tell with Jimmy and Michael, I think everything will be okay. So yeah, we're out of time. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We went a little extra today again. I apologize. Done that a couple days now in a row. I'll try not to do it anymore. I should send you guys a bill. Pray for Patrick. Pray for David Bear. He's still going through a bunch of things. Try to do things that, yeah. Today was a good day. I got to talk a little bit about things with guys and meet another hunter, and that's a tough deal. So let's pray it out. I think I said it: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. All the big stuff. Go check them out and give us a 5-star review. And we'll see you tomorrow. Let's go ahead and pray it out. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to just be able to look back on life with these two men. Thank you for having Nick on and for the opportunity I had to just talk. I mean, that wasn't even really about much of anything other than just maybe having a few successes. But being able to talk through life. And there's so often that there are people in our communities, Father, that don't have that voice. But Father, it's important that we recognize that we're all the same. We all bleed the same blood, and we all walk the same direction, and we all have the same pain. And so, Father, I just ask you that maybe you relieve some of that pain. Get us to a place where we can stop fighting about the fundamentals of our society, not just here in this country, but around the world. I would ask for just a huge shift, that there would be accountability. And yeah, I want accountability for myself, because I want to be vindicated. And I just started to realize that maybe that's too selfish, and I can't be selfless and selfish at the same time. So Father, I give it up to you, and I say thank you. Thank you for the experiences I've been able to have. Thank you for the men that have served before me and will serve after me. And thank you for the time that I've been given to do this podcast and to lead men and women in business and even to volunteer and sacrifice for the things that are most important to me. I'm grateful. I say these things, Father, humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Remember, go buy that book. It's called Hard Guys Cry. It's coming out. If you have a Kindle, tell me how you like it. All right, take care.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless. fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real, no more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Truth forever. True forever.